Hello, you're listening to Let's Hear About with me, Nicky, and today we're hearing about the Wilhelm Scream. This is a scream that has appeared in more than 400 films and television programmes. The exact same few seconds of audio recorded more than 70 years ago, used again and again. You've almost certainly heard it. Recognise it? If you didn't before, you probably will now, because once you know what the Wilhelm Scream sounds like, you start noticing it everywhere. So I may have just ruined a few films for you forever. Sorry about that. The Wilhelm Scream was first recorded in 1951 for a western called Distant Drums, directed by Raoul Walsh. There's a scene where a soldier is wading through a swamp and is attacked and dragged underwater by an alligator, so the studio recorded an actor doing several different screams to find one that worked. The recording reel was apparently labelled "Man being eaten by alligator." Several takes were recorded, and one of them, usually identified as take 4, is the scream we now know as the Wilhelm Scream. Although at this point it wasn't called that. It wasn't famous, and there was nothing particularly special about it. It was just another sound effect sitting in a library. 2 years later, it was used in a film called The Charge at Feather River. A soldier called Private Wilhelm takes an arrow to the leg and lets out that same scream. That's where the name comes from, although it wasn't actually named the Wilhelm Scream until years later. But who actually made the scream? Well, honestly, we don't really know. The most likely person behind it is an actor called Sheb Wooley, who appeared uncredited in Distant Drums. His former wife once said that he used to joke about how good he was at screaming and dying in films, and research into the original audio recording has pointed towards him. But there is no confirmed credit, so it's probably Sheb Wooley, we just can't say for certain. If it was him though, this is where it gets slightly bizarre, because Sheb Wooley is also the man who sang the 1958 novelty hit The Purple People Eater. That's not easy to say. So the man who may have recorded one of the most famous screams in cinema history also sang The Purple People Eater. For the next 25 years or so, the scream was simply a stock sound effect. It was reused in films when somebody was shot, fell from a height, or met another unfortunate end, but it was just one of thousands of sound effects sitting in studio libraries. Then a designer called Ben Burtt found it. You might not recognise Ben Burtt's name. You will definitely recognise the sounds he created. The hum of the lightsaber, Darth Vader's breathing, and the sounds of R2-D2 all came from his work. While researching sounds for Star Wars, Burtt went through the old studio sound libraries and found the scream. He traced it back through Distant Drums and The Charge at Feather River, and started calling it the Wilhelm Scream after Private Wilhelm. Then he used it in Star Wars in 1977. Luke Skywalker shoots a stormtrooper who falls from a ledge on the Death Star, and you hear that scream. Ben Burtt kept using it in other films, and other sound designers started doing the same. It appears throughout Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and has been used in films including Toy Story, The Lord of the Rings, and Reservoir Dogs. What had originally been a convenient stock sound became an inside joke between filmmakers and sound designers. Most people watching a film had no idea it was there. I mean, why would they? It was just somebody screaming. But if you've ever worked in film and you knew the sound, you recognised it. And I love the idea that the exact same scream was being passed between filmmakers for decades, from a western made in 1951 to Star Wars, Indiana Jones, animated children's films, and Quentin Tarantino. But why does the scream affect us so much anyway? In 2015, researchers published a study in the scientific journal Current Biology, looking at what makes a scream sound so alarming. And they found that human screams have an acoustic quality known as roughness. It isn't simply about the scream being loud or high-pitched. Roughness is about how quickly the volume of a sound changes. When we're speaking normally, the volume of our voice changes relatively slowly, around 4 or 5 times a second. but with a scream those changes often happen around 30 to 150 times a second. When researchers looked at brain activity, rough sounds caused increased activity in the amygdala, which is heavily involved in our response to danger and the fight or flight response. The rougher the sound was, the stronger the fear response. So your brain is literally designed to pay attention to a scream. And when you think about why humans scream, that makes perfect sense. If somebody's in immediate danger, the sound needs to make other people react quickly. You don't want everyone standing around and looking, whether that was a concerning noise or not. The Wilhelm Scream has that acoustic roughness, so despite the fact it's now a Hollywood joke and has been used hundreds of times, the sound itself still does what a scream is supposed to do, although once you recognise it, there's a problem. Someone can call from a building, be blown up, get shot, instead of being caught in the drama you're sitting there thinking, that's the Wilhelm Scream. And that is one of the reasons some filmmakers have actually stopped using it. The newer Star Wars films moved away from the scream, with sound designers deciding to create new sound traditions instead. But after more than 70 years, the Wilhelm Scream is still being used. The original recording is now considered to be in the public domain, which means anyone can use it, and filmmakers still hide it in films for people who know what they're listening for. So there you have it. A scream recorded from a man being eaten by an alligator in 1951, reused for a soldier called Wilhelm 2 years later, and rediscovered by a man who gave us the lightsabers, Darth Vader, and R2-D2. And somehow, those few seconds of audio became an inside joke passed between filmmakers for more than 70 years. So the next time you're watching a film and someone gets shot, blown up, or falls from a suspiciously high ledge, listen carefully. You might hear this. And now I've pointed it out, you'll probably hear it everywhere. You're welcome. I'm Nicky, and this has been Let's Hear About the Wilhelm Scream, a series part of Let's Talk About. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it. Next month, we're hearing about the air raid siren. Music and sound effects by Pixabay. Thank you for listening. Take care, and I'll catch you next month.